wonderful world of Disney.
New ideas for Disneyland are first visualized in artists' renderings like this overall view of the new Tomorrowland area. The painting begins to take on form and dimension with construction of a scale model, detailing every attraction. Here's the towering rocket pylon, the cars of the People Mover, the colorful new bandstand. This scale model represents more than 5 acres of new attractions in Tomorrowland. Inside these buildings are shows and exhibits presented by half a dozen of America's leading companies. Along this elevated guideway, the People Mover cars travel past Tomorrowland's 2 huge theme murals, each 15 feet high and 54 feet long. Using complex equipment and systems, these specialists are programming every movement of every pirate, and also the more subtle movements of their prisoners. When all 3 processes, sound, animation, and electronics, were finally combined and synchronized, the pirates began to come to life. Meanwhile, other craftsmen were preparing the scene of battle for the arrival of the buccaneers. Canvas sails began to show the signs of battle, bullet holes and gunpowder burns. The old Caribbean town was given an aged look, with the usual care and precision. And finally, it was almost time for the pirate crew to set sail. But first there was one more journey, perhaps the most dangerous of all. The trip from Wed to Disneyland on the Southern California freeways.
Opening day was dark and dreary, the kind of day that would have brought a ray of sunshine into the hearts of Blackbeard or Long John Silver. Aboard the Columbia, the newspaper and television reporters were out in force to cover the grand opening, armed to the teeth with pencils and cameras. Hardly a fair match for a swashbuckling band of buccaneers armed with pistols and cannons.
Victory at sea was only a prelude to pleasure on shore. With the Columbia's crew of reporters and photographers safely in tow, there was only one more hurdle for the pirates to overcome. Go the spoils. A voyage on the high seas with the wildest crew that ever sacked the Spanish Main. The Pirates of the Caribbean.
When Disneyland opened in 1955, Tomorrowland, the world of the future, seemed more science fiction than actual fact. Even today's household word astronaut had not yet been coined. When the 1960s arrived, the world of today began to catch up with Disneyland's world of tomorrow. So Walt Disney and our Imagineering department began to create an all-new Tomorrowland. And here it is today in Disneyland. On the gala day it opened, Tomorrowland's concept and spirit were symbolized by these dedication words from Walt Disney. Tomorrowland, A vista into a world of wondrous ideas signifying man's achievements. A step into the future with predictions of constructive things to come.
It was a news cameraman's field day, and they used every vantage point to cover the grand opening activities. Mickey was dressed for the occasion, and although he never got off the ground, this spaceman did. This is one ride you won't find in your ticket book today. But remember, this is Tomorrowland. And who knows, nothing's impossible at Disneyland. Is a world on the move. The best way to see it all is to ride the Wedway People Mover. These vehicles never stop moving, even while passengers board and disembark from a rotating platform. Beyond the People Mover station is the new mural featuring old Mr. Energy himself. The People Mover is no mere amusement ride. It was designed for intermediate speed transportation within cities. The cars have no motors. Power is supplied from a series of motors embedded in the track. So no single car can ever break down and cause a rush hour traffic jam. Someday a system like this may even pass through the downtown buildings in your community, just as it travels through Tomorrowland's pavilions today. Tomorrowland is not just the realm of outer space. One of the most unusual new attractions is the adventure through inner space. A true-life scientific adventure into the world of atoms and molecules. These cars are called atommobiles. Aboard them, Disneyland guests ride through a giant microscope and experience the sensation of shrinking as they explore the vast universe inside a snowflake. The next sight on this transportation system that never stops is inside the character shop. It's the modern way to window shop. People Mover, you can preview every attraction in Tomorrowland and then come back later to see the whole show. Here's one you won't want to miss. Flight to the Moon. In the Mission Control Center, you can watch a rocket take off on a trip to outer space. Back on Earth, passengers aboard the People Mover continue their tour. One of the hit shows of the New York World's Fair is now in its new home in Tomorrowland, the Carousel of Progress. Like a carousel, the audience rides, while the stages in this theater stand still.
Man has a dream, and that's the start. He follows his dream with mind and heart. And when it becomes a reality, it's a dream come true for you and me.
Unusual innovations in Disneyland has been the perfection of a motion picture that surrounds the viewer, placing the audience in the center of all the action. Projected on 9 screens that form a circle, the show is a tour of the scenic wonders of the United States. Reacts as he goes up in the gantry and gets ready for blast off. Let's follow these familiar spacemen and see. They go, and where they stop, nobody knows. Well, our astronauts have done it again. They've broken out of formation and are headed for heaven knows where. When the lights come on in Tomorrowland, the bandstand comes out of hiding.
California has suddenly become the world's most hectic tourist center, and 8 million people a year come flocking from every corner of the world to Disney's $100 million dream in action. To ride from the ghost town of Rainbow Ridge, for instance, on a mine train that will take you back to the pioneer days, and on to tour the great North American wilderness. This is a potted tour of America's national parks, recreated here with imagination and great authenticity. You see waterfalls like these in Glacier National Park up in the Rocky Mountains. And you will see scenes like this in Florida's swampy Everglades. Here is the living desert of Arizona, as it still is today. Now we go on to Yellowstone National Park, where Old Faithful, the famous geyser, blows her top. But of Of course, Main Street is the hub of this happy kingdom, and Pluto is there to remind you who it was that dreamed up all this color and fun. Not to mention Goofy. Now close your eyes and you'll see Sleeping Beauty's castle. This is Fantasyland, where the storybook fairy tales take life-size shape. Here you can fly with Peter Pan or see the Seven Dwarfs diamond mine. This is a staggering place. 10 miles away as you're driving here, you see a mountain that looks just like the Matterhorn. You get nearer and you say, yes, it is the Matterhorn. They've reproduced in scale detail the peak of this famous mountain, where Fantasyland and Tomorrowland meet. The monorail betokens this Tomorrowland, which can give you a ride into the heart of an atom in a boat shaped like a microscope, or if you prefer it, a trip to the moon. Here you're in a fairground that shows you not America, but the universe, which makes you feel that the planet we live on really is a tiny little place. In this small world, you visit 100 countries, with Walt Disney dolls in their national costumes making you feel at one with the whole human race. And you come out to see a submarine in which you can take an underwater cruise through liquid space and see giant clams in tropical seas and the denizens of the deep. Come up for breath now and see new things that Disneyland has to offer, because it keeps growing. Walt Disney said it would go on growing as long as there was imagination left in the world. Here's a flower market more colorful than nature herself could contrive. Flowers are fundamental and take us back to our origins, as in a way does Disneyland's reconstruction of old-time New Orleans as it was 100 years ago, with its narrow byways and its lace iron railings. This little corner of this small world is Disneyland's Dixieland. It is from this elegant starting point that you can set out on a trip through the River of America, which is the Mississippi, Colorado, and Missouri rolled into one. Stand by and see what life was like when you were waiting for the Robert E. Lee. We mustn't linger, so forget America and get ready for Disneyland's jungle trip through Africa and Asia. Because here, it's a small enough world to allow us that. Small world indeed for them. This is a silly symphony out in the open air, and we're all dancing for sheer joy.
As
the stern-wheeler Mark Twain approaches the bend in the river, the latest addition to Frontierland comes into view. It's New Orleans Square, authentic in every detail. The pearl of the Delta as the frontiersmen knew her. This is the atmosphere that spawned Dixieland jazz, music that's alive and wailin' every day. But it wasn't all music and magnolias in those days. There were cutthroat pirates to contend with. This audio animatronic attraction takes hardy souls right into the Buccaneers' lair.
But keep a weather eye open, mates, and hold on tight. With both hands, if you please.
Pirate raid that witnesses will live to tell about.
Speak up, you bilge rat! Where be the treasure? Por favor! No! No! Pipe him aloft again, matey. By gum, he'll talk. A pirate like me. Back now, matey. Clear the bloomin' deck. Gunpowder and gunfire don't mix. Be off before she blows.
One of the best shows ever. And right on time, too. You boys had me worried there for a while. But all's well that ends well, right?
Now can I go see the Haunted Mansion?
Why not? That's a good idea.
Oh, listen, first I'd like to change my clothes.
Right. Yeah. Guys, you better change, too. Right.
Wait, see what they have over there.
Well, it looks as though everyone wants to go see the Haunted Mansion. And that's good because it's such a great ride. But while everyone's on their way over there, I thought you might like to see a film on how it was built and how some of the tricks were done. I'll show you that film and then take you on a trip through the Haunted Mansion. When word got out of Walt Disney's plans for a haunted mansion, the Ghost Relations Department at WED Enterprises was deluged with inquiries from assorted ghosts and haunts who were dying to get a look at it. An expert staff of master illusioneers worked for more than 10 years planning everything down to the minutest detail. This is the endless hallway, a misty passage beckoning you to enter, but offering no end. Of course, a model had to be made for the ghost's approval. Come along and follow us. Who knows? Someday you may want to live here yourself. No haunted mansion would be complete without a seance room. This one was designed as a cozy gathering place where the spirits could practice chain rattling, screeching, and the ever-popular horn blowing. The Imagineers at WED Enterprises, many of whom were formerly animators at the Disney studio, worked overtime to make these tiny real figures arrive at the Haunted Mansion as ghosts. Seems to work well enough, doesn't it? Suitable sleeping quarters had to be prepared. You might call this a model apartment. As the ghosts began to arrive, individual problems began to pop up. A skeleton crew of technicians was kept busy full-time, attending to the peculiar needs of the future inhabitants. No stone was left unturned. Some of the ethereal inhabitants were much too shy to be seen by mortals, and mechanical substitutes had to be devised to make them visible. What you are seeing is a man operating a machine that activates the mechanical features of this head. Or is it the other way around? Well, whatever it is, it seems to work. At least, I think that's what this fellow is trying to tell us. With the aid of these banks of electronic equipment, even the household pets were animated, including these two friendly creatures. A system was developed by the people at Disney to control the movements of the ghostly inhabitants of the Haunted Mansion through the use of scalloped-edge discs. Roller cams followed the depressions and shoulders, producing realistic movements that helped to bring our spooky tenants to life, if you'll excuse the pun. This system was called audio animatronics, which combined three-dimensional animation and sound through the use of electronics. By stacking these discs, a number of functions could be controlled at the same time. As a matter of fact, every movement and sound of all the tenants of the Haunted Mansion is directed in this manner. Is it any wonder that it took more than 10 years to complete the job? An interesting phenomenon that we seem to have no control over is this old gentleman who just can't seem to keep his eyes off of you no matter where you go. Probably the single most difficult problem faced by the Illusionaires at WED was that posed by some of the more bashful boarders who refused to show their faces. Some of the busts even appeared to be unfinished. The head was there, but the face was missing. But you know how it is. At Disney's, there's always a couple of faces left lying around on the floor.
As the moon climbs high o'er the dead oak tree, creepy creeps with eerie eyes, grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize.
Finally, everyone was brought together. They all seemed to be in good order and capable of taking care of themselves. Although some needed a hand. Or the latest in haunting hairdos. Everything was finally ready. Musicians were recruited. A cast party was held. And some last-minute repairs were made. It was so exciting that this poor fellow lost his head. The Haunted Mansion was an idea of Walt Disney's. You see, he began to worry where ghosts were going to live after all the old houses were torn down to make room for freeways. He decided that if someone didn't give him a house to live in, why, they'd just disappear. So Mr. Disney built a haunted mansion.
Oh, boy, but I'm sure glad it's not Halloween tonight.
Well, how come, Donnie?
Well, there'd be so many ghosts here, there wouldn't be any room for us.
Oh, boy.
Come on, the line's moving. Yeah.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion. I am your host, your ghost host.
Oh, that's wild. Oh, look at the pictures moving.
Hey, so this one.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that something? Man.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. Wouldn't this room be great to have at home?
I know.
Yeah.
Something else is happening.
The whole room is changing. The top of the wall was about this high when I came in. Now look.
I know. Look at the door opening.
Yeah, I know. Is this your first time through? Thanks a lot. Come on, girl, let's go. This is too much, I know. Look at this.
Gosh, keep being around here.
Looks like a late show.
Hey, look at the picture of the man on the horse.
Look at the ship in that picture.
Yeah, now that's what I call a pretty lady. is far out.
That's odd.
Boy, that's really weird. How do they do that?
To enter the carriages, step on moving belts, please.
Hey, wait! I get to ride with DJ, because I'm the bravest. The rest of you guys, just make out the best you can.
Thanks a lot. Come on, Meryl. Let's go.
I don't know. Kurt, how would you like to be here alone and hear a voice calling you from the other end of the hall? Would you go, huh? No, thanks.
Wouldn't that be great to have at home on Halloween? Can't you see someone ringing the doorbell? And when it opens, that's what they'd see inside.
I really don't think I'd care to have that in my living room at any time of the year.
And ghoulies from last Halloween. Awaken the spirits with your tambourine.
What are the candles? Look, you can see right through the dancers. Look at the skulls coming out of the organ. Scary skulls.
Bats. Oh, I don't like bats. This place makes me feel creepy all over.
EJ, look!
Want to go again, Mr. Gridley?
No, thank you.
That was the most fantastic thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
That was great.
I want to go again.
You know, I wish I knew how they got those ghosts in that big dining hall. Hey, wouldn't you like to take that coffin home and use it next Halloween?
Oh, yeah? Donnie, what did you like the best?
Hey, where's Donnie?
Donnie? Donnie?
Donnie!